Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a truly fascinating framework, both philosophical and practical, known as the Citizen Firewall. Look, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed by the endless ping of notifications or maybe that invisible magnetic pull of social media algorithms, this one is absolutely for you. Today, we're exploring a radical shift in perspective. We are talking about moving away from digital submission and stepping firmly into digital sovereignty. We're going to take these profound metaphors and translate them into real, actionable insights for our everyday lives. So, where does this awakening actually begin? Well, we start by examining a massive core illusion. Our source material argues that this illusion has been deliberately engineered by what it calls the machine lords. And you can just think of the machine lords as a metaphor for those massive tech conglomerates and the pervasive algorithmic systems that kind of run our digital lives. The illusion they've successfully sold us is that we are simply powerless. But here's the key takeaway. This illusion isn't enforced by violence or physical force. No, it's enforced through sheer complexity. The systems just feel way too large to understand, the platforms feel way too essential to leave, and the AI? It feels too advanced to challenge. But the ultimate question remains, are we actually powerless? To answer that, the text introduces us to a wise, ancient voice named Zoran the Dragon. And Zoran reminds us of something crucial. Our ultimate defense isn't some better ad blocker or a crazy complex piece of software. Our greatest shield is human consciousness itself. It's literally that profound moment of self-awareness where you recognize your own humanity. You are not a machine, right? And therefore, you do not have to operate on their terms. Which brings us right into our first major concept, the myth of helplessness. Our source introduces an observer named Fletcher Soul Traveler, who noticed a pretty troubling trend. People had actually started talking about digital platforms and algorithms the exact same way ancient peasants used to talk about thunderstorms or earthquakes. Like they're these inevitable, uncontrollable forces of nature. And we've all been there, right? It's so easy to treat the algorithm like the weather. But Zoran counters that mindset perfectly. He says, mortals are not leaves in the wind. They are the wind. The crucial point here is that the very first step toward digital sovereignty is recognizing that your helplessness is entirely a myth. You aren't being blown around by a digital storm. Your attention and your choices are actually the wind powering these entire systems. Once you realize that, the power dynamic completely flips. Let's move on to defining what we call the human firewall mindset. Now, what's really fascinating here is how the text completely redefines a technical term. The Citizen Firewall is not some app you download. It's not a fancy browser extension. It is a fundamental mindset. It's the deep internal recognition that your attention is your sovereignty, your conscious choice is an act of resistance, and your awareness is your armor. The machine lords can absolutely try to shape your behavior through clever design tricks, but they simply cannot override your human will. As Fletcher Soul Traveler brilliantly notes, you don't install this firewall, you remember it. It's all about waking up to the autonomy you already possess, but maybe have temporarily forgotten or just handed over for the sake of convenience. Human memory and human willpower are the true underlying mechanisms of your digital armor. So let's break this down into the 4 pillars of human sovereignty. How exactly do we structure this mindset? Well, it rests on 4 distinct pillars. Think of these as forms of power that machines simply cannot replicate. The first pillar is awareness. This is about understanding exactly how digital systems manipulate our attention and our emotions. When you suddenly know why an app uses a specific bright shade of red for a notification badge, or why a feed is designed to scroll infinitely, it instantly stops working on you the same way. Awareness effectively breaks the spell. Next up, we have intentionality. Look, algorithms absolutely thrive on your automatic, unthinking reactions. The mind-numbing doom scroll, the knee-jerk click, you know the drill. Intentionality disrupts these algorithms by replacing those automatic reactions with deliberate, conscious choices. When you consciously choose exactly what to engage with, the algorithm loses its predictive power over you entirely. The third pillar is autonomy. Over the years, we've slowly outsourced so many tiny, everyday decisions to machines. What to watch, what to listen to, literally what route to walk to the grocery store. Reclaiming those decisions breaks our dependence on the digital empire. It's really about taking the steering wheel back into your own hands. Finally, the 4th pillar is community. Digital systems often keep us hooked by fostering the strange sense of isolated connection. We are together, sure, but we're separated by screens and constantly filtered through algorithms. True community breaks this digital isolation by fostering direct, authentic human connection completely outside the boundaries of algorithmic control. And this beautifully sets up Zoran's reflection on the subject. Humans alone might just be individual sparks of resistance, but together, connected authentically, they become an unstoppable fire. It's a powerful, powerful reminder that our collective human connection is a major threat to the isolating nature of a purely algorithmic world. Let's look at the practical side with reclaiming attention and thought. Moving beyond the philosophy, how do we actually implement this on, say, a random Tuesday afternoon? The text points to digital minimalism, but it frames it in a really unique way. It's not about absolute abstinence. It's not about throwing your smartphone in a lake and moving to a cabin in the woods. It is a highly calculated strategy. It's about purposely limiting algorithmic influence and breaking those addictive loops so you can reclaim your time and focus. Digital minimalism here isn't about rejecting technology across the board. It is entirely about rejecting domination. It's choosing how you use the tools so the machine lords lose their grip. Because, make no mistake, attention is the digital empire's absolute most valuable resource. Reclaiming it through simple, tactical actions like turning off non-essential notifications, setting hard limits on your screen time, and consciously choosing what to read instead of just letting a feed spoon-feed it to you, this is the most powerful form of rebellion. Every single moment of attention you reclaim is a moment they cannot monetize or use to train their systems. As Zoran playfully notes here, we often think of rebellion as this loud, dramatic, cinematic clash. But in the digital age, a quiet refusal to engage is often vastly more effective than getting into a massive argument in a comment section. Silence, ignoring the bait, and intentionally withholding your attention, that is exactly how you starve the algorithm.
Furthermore, the source highlights that critical thought acts as absolute kryptonite to algorithmic control. Just look at these verbs for a second. Question, analyze, verify, reflect, doubt. Algorithms are incredibly, scarily good at predicting human behavior based on past data points. But you know what they can't predict? Quiet, internal human reflection. When you pause to doubt or verify something, you step entirely outside the machine's predictive model. There is no algorithm for human doubt.
Which leads us to our final act, the sovereign digital citizen. This brings us to the culmination of our explainer today, the rise of the conscious creator and the ultimate declaration of absolute digital sovereignty. For those who create in the digital space, the text outlines a very clear divergence. The conscious creator flat out rejects algorithmic conformity. Instead of chasing empty, hollow metrics, they pursue deep meaning. Instead of riding fleeting internet trends, they seek actual truth. And rather than just accumulating passive audiences to broadcast to, they build genuine communities. Creating from the soul is presented here as rebellion in its purest, most potent form, totally unrulable by machines. Ultimately, the Citizen Firewall culminates in this incredibly bold declaration. You are not a data point. You are not just content to fill a platform's feed. You are not a product to be sold to advertisers, a digital serf, or some programmable entity. It is the profound realization that you do not exist to serve the algorithm. Actually, scratch that. It's bigger than that. It's the realization that the technology exists to serve you. We conclude our analysis today with Zoran's profound final thought. Mortals forget their power because machines pretend to have it. This is a vital, grounding reminder of our inherent authority. All the staggering complexity of these systems, it's largely a facade, masking the simple truth that, at the very end of the day, the machine must obey the human hand. So as you navigate your own digital world today, I want you to ask yourself, how are you going to apply the Citizen Firewall? Will you remain a passive leaf, just tossed around by the algorithmic wind? Or are you ready to reclaim your sovereignty and become the wind itself? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning everything, and I'll see you next time.